Hey everyone. Thought I'd join today and wanted to kind of share some ideas about people making the transition over to learning and development, right? You've made that choice. Whatever you're doing in your career, I see a lot on LinkedIn of people they were teachers and they want to make that transition. And I thought I'd throw my 2 cents into the arena. I made the transition. My degree's in secondary ed, history, and geography. I was at in the financial industry for a long time, and I made the switch back into education and learning development. So I thought I'd throw my 2 cents into this arena. I really wanted to kind of dig into this really in terms of three main points. Kind of your role, your what software what software should we be looking at as we're getting ready to transition, and the idea of showing your work. But with that being said, let's kind of get into this. All right, and that actually shouldn't be showing at the moment, so let me hide that real quick. All right, so this is the inaugural, the first session of the L&D lunch hour. Obviously, I'm learning as I go. I figured, this is one of those ones. It's better to be done than perfect, and better to learn as we go. I mean, I just had something I didn't want to show on the screen already. I also noticed as it was coming in, it put in the template from the last, or the name from the last session, or the last live stream I did, which was really that was my first test run. But this is the first one that I'm going to, from going forward, barring technical issues, like, there's no power or, bleeding out of the ears, something like that. Every Friday, 12 o'clock-ish, we'll be doing some lunch hours. But today, again, with this being the first one, who knows what's going to happen? I'm hoping to avoid the train wreck type things that can occur. But if it does, right, we don't always win, but we're always going to learn. So that's what we're going for today. But the areas of what I want to jump into is, that first concept of, we're looking to switch to L&D, right? Why are we doing this? And like I said, the ideas are, what's the right role for me? What software do I need? And the idea of showing your work. So again, those are the three main points I want to dig into. And from there, let's actually get to the first one. So what is that right role for you? And to be honest, if you came to me looking for me to say, hey, Pat, what should I do? I can't tell you. That's for you to decide. And I'm really going to look at this in terms of people who are looking to transition from the education fields over, right? So lots of people went into education for whatever reason. Lots of people went into different areas of education for different reasons, right? Like I went in for history and geography because I really liked history and geography. If I was supposed to go out and teach science, like, no, thank you, I'm not going to do it. The same concept goes through with L&D. So if there's something that intrigues you about learning and development, great, go for that. If let's say when you first got into education, you thought your end goal, your career path was that you wanted to get into administration and you wanted to be a principal or you wanted to be in the superintendent. And now you want to transition over into L&D. Well, it's possible you still kind of want that managerial type role. So are you looking to get in on at some level of the L&D world and then work your way up into the management side, into VP, directorships, those type of things of L&D? That's a possibility. If that's what intrigues you, go for that. If you loved being the person in front of the class and talking and teaching and all that, but, well, maybe you just don't like middle schoolers, right? Right here. I've got 2 of them. Well, I've got 5 kids. 2 that are in that really sweet teenage years period where they're just awful. So I get it. If that's your case, like you love teaching, talking, working with people, coaching, all that stuff, go towards a facilitation role, something like that. If you really dug the idea of creating the materials, like the curriculum, setting up curriculum, planning out the lesson plans and all that, but teaching it, not so much. Well, maybe you want to get more on the design side. So the point is, there's so many different ways of, learning and development works that especially it's in some cases you are going to be limited by where you go, right? So if you go to an organization and it's a single, it's a one person L&D department, well, guess what? You're doing it all. So, some of this doesn't play. You go into a large corporation. I'm just going to throw Google out there. Right? I don't even know what Google's learning and development world looks like, but I'm guessing it's more than one person. I'm guessing you're looking at, multiple people. You're probably looking at, could probably up to like hundreds of people. There's going to be people that are going to be more set into specific areas. So if you're really looking to get into a niche area within L&D, you probably are going to want to look at some of the larger places versus, if you want to kind of be the jack of all trades, you want to be your own boss. Well, maybe you look at setting up your own firm, your own small business to do this. So again, the right role, there isn't, one right role. It's whatever works for you. So that's really, that was my soapbox stand. I wish I had a little image for a soapbox and I could show that to you. But that's about what I got on what's your right role. All right. This one, what software do I need? I see this a lot on LinkedIn, on some of the other areas out there of people saying, I want to get learning and development. What do I need? And I see a lot of people, they're going articulate, Rise 360, Vyond, all Camtasia, Adobe Premiere, Adobe Illustrator, all of these things, right? There's an expense with all software. So again, this is another one. It's, it's not like get these 4 pieces of software, you're good to go, sweet. It's going to be one of those ones where you kind of need to figure out what you want to be doing. And so this is, and maybe I should, if I took a step back here now thinking about it, when we were talking about what's the right role for you. So let's bring that back up. What's the right role in this area? And I should have brought this up before, so I apologize for getting a little out of place. Reach out, use LinkedIn, use your network, find out places where you think you may want to be and talk to some of those people. Right? What does it currently look like at XYZ company? You want to go work at, in government, L&D at the U.S. Navy. Great. Find someone who does that and talk with them. And this is where I circle back to the software thing. In that conversation, at the places you may want to be or in the roles that you want to be doing, what's the software being used? Right? What's the point of you going and saying, I'm going to completely learn Articulate 360, or Storyline or Rise 360 or Vyond, if the place that you want to be or that you're going to end up does does e-learning through PowerPoint, or it's all, stuff that they build out in Camtasia, or they're all instructor-led training. So knowing what software you need to use really is going to be dependent on the job and the industry, the location that you're going to go to. That being said, the ones that I think that everyone really should spend some time on, and you're probably going to be like, seriously, Pat, this is what you're telling me? The first one, know Microsoft Word, right? And it's one of those ones, and we're going to come to it in a moment. So for the people who don't use Word, don't get all upset. But Word, PowerPoint, these ones are going to be items that you're going to use, especially if you're doing instructor-led training, you're going to use this, or you're going to be using the Google Suite, right? So know this product. And I know everyone's like, I know Microsoft Word, right? I type words on the page. I use Google Suite, or I use Google Docs. I made slides in the classroom. I get it. We've all used the bare minimum of it, but these programs do so much more. There's so many high-end features in these programs. How can we harness those to get better, right? So look at some of that LinkedIn Learning that are out there, or other people, YouTube, like one of the best places. Well, if you can search through enough of the stuff, but where you can learn for free, but build better skills at the higher end functions that will help you do your job. So, that's one of those areas. The one item that I'm going to say right now that if you have to pay money, if I had to say buy one piece of software right now, I'm going to say Snagit. Right, all of the other things that are out there, Articulate, Rise 360, VR, all of those, the Adobe Creative Cloud, all of that stuff, they all have their place. Snagit is phenomenal. Just to pop over, it's a product of TechSmith. No way associated with that. I'm not associated with. They're not telling me to buy, to offer this. Like, just throwing that out there. This is a product that I use each and every day. And it's power. We can do screen captures. You can record your screen. You can, make annotations. There's just so much you can do with it. And it's so simple to use. So that's going to be the one that I would say, if you don't have it, even if you have to pay for it out of your own pocket, do so, because it's going to make your life super easy. Especially with this product, I will say, for the people coming from education, there is a student and teacher discount. I want to say, if I was to buy, I think I looked this morning, I think it was, if I was to go buy a license for myself right now, not, just corporate wide, individual, not government, not student teacher discount, anything like that. It was just the straight regular price. I think it's like $63 for the year. Not a bad price. I think there's like an add-on to get some additional some additional maintenance and support, which I actually think is a good thing because it gives you access to more training on top of it. But even if you paid, you're not going to, but if it was $100, it's well worth it. Now, coming back to that idea about not paying, or don't buy the software until you know what you're going to be using, right? If you go to I'm just making up, just choosing a company randomly. Let's say you end up at, we'll use my company. You're at Great Circle Learning. What's the software that you're using? What softwares do you use in doing your training there? Where at XYZ company, you could be using different pieces of software, right? So I wouldn't really buy anything until I knew the places that I wanted to go to, what they're using. My one caveat to that, especially for you everyone coming out of the teaching area, a lot of these places, TechSmith, right, who does Snagit, who does Camtasia, Microsoft. If you don't have Microsoft 365, I believe Articulate, Rise 360, they all have student and teacher discounts. So if you're coming out of the teaching field and going in here and you are interested in some of the software, it may be worth it to buy it right now because you're going to get a discount, right? What if it's 30%, right? What if that $300 piece of software is now $200, right? That's a huge savings. So it's another thing to consider. Again, I can't tell you, if it's and the other side of this, and on top of all of this in regards to software, would be if there's something that you're truly interested in, you want to do, like if you're really interested in, one of these, like Vyond, if that blows your mind and you want to learn it, then buy it, because it's one of those ones, like if you're interested, go for it, because it's going to build up that passion in you for you to do something else. And this is the one I always think of stuff. What's my dollar, my dollar per hour entertainment cost, right? So if I go to the movies, and I'm just going to say, I think I took my son to the movies, and I think before popcorn and all that stuff, I think it was like $17.50 for each of us to go to a 2-hour movie, right? So if I take that $17.50, I divide it in half, right? When I'm at $18.75. So to go to that movie for a 2-hour movie, my dollar to entertainment cost was $8.75. Well, okay, so let's say we buy a $100 piece of software, and I'm going to do 100 because I can do that math fairly easily in my head. So if I buy a $100 piece of software and I spend 20 hours in it, learning and getting stuff, my dollar to entertainment or dollar to knowledge cost is $5 an hour, right? That's we spend that on, a coffee and a Danish for people who like Danishes. I really like the cheese ones. See, that's why this is the lunch hour, right? It's like I should have brought a bag lunch with me. Next Friday, I'm bringing a bag lunch. But again, I'm digressing on all this. The idea is, if something really interests you, go for it. Don't just buy something because you think you need it. That's where having the conversations with the places you're going or you want to be, are they using it? How much do they use it? Right? One of these companies that you may want to go to, they may use Articulate, but maybe it's 1 out of every 10 jobs that you do. So at that point, is that worth it for you to put the money into it right now? Are they going to give it to you when you get there, right? So those are the things. But if it's something that just, you're like, I really want to learn this, then go for it. Buy it. Obviously, if you have the budget. So that's my idea on there. All right. The last one that I really want to talk about was the idea of showing your work, right? We've all been there in class, right? What's 32 times 8, right? And you wrote it down, or you had some sort of answer. And if you just wrote the answer for, let's say you knew 32 times 8 right off the top of your head was, such and such, and you wrote it down, you get back and you'd get like half credit, or the teacher would be like, show your work, right? And that always got me mad. I'm like, I knew the answer. Why did I have to show my work? But for the times where you were off, the answer was wrong, but you kind of worked through it and they were like, you got partial credit, right? That was kind of cool. Take that concept of showing your work in regards to what you're showing as you're going out there for a position, right? I know a lot of people are working on what's their portfolio out there, right? I need to show, here's what I've been able to do for e-learning modules, what I did in Articulate or Vyond. Here's what I'm doing for, instructor-led training or a job aid, all of those things, right? And again, this all comes back to, what role are you interested in? Where are you going? Because these are, if you're going to be going to some place that does 90% of their trainings instructor-led, does it really matter to show what you did in e-learning? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But to me, like, the other side to what I think on this is just showing, like, this is my job aid, right? Here's what it looks like. Or here's what I chose to do for, my example of how to cook a turkey, right? If you just give them what you've done, they can see the product. But to me, what's important is what's up, what's in between the ears, right? I want to know your thought process. And so that's the show your work, right? So let me give you an example. So let's say I had to build out, I was building out an instructor guide, right? And I was walking someone through the choices that the instructor guide was showing you the facilitator what they needed to be doing, right? They get it. You put it out there, and they, whoever's the hiring manager, the L&D people that are going to look and be reviewing the applications, right? They can see what you've done, right? Okay, great. But if you came in and was able to walk them through your thought process, right? So I'm going to spitball with this example, but here is the beginnings of a lesson in a facilitator guide, right? And I could say, all right, on the left-hand side of this page, I put in visual cues so that the facilitator, as they're walking through this document, as they're leading this document, they can quickly glance down, see a visual cue that we will consistently be using so that they know when they see the clock, they know that's a cue for where we are in terms of time into the document. And that's why I'm showing cumulative time, and then how long they have to teach that. Right? And then when they see the microphone or whatever icon we choose to use, they know this is something they need to specifically say. So I'm giving a visual cue and then a headline of what I'm kind of looking for them to do. Like in this case, say something like. And I choose say something like because I don't need them to necessarily say it verbatim, right? It's not a regulation. I don't need them to read it to them, but I need them to get the information across to the group, right? And then then they have the visual cue for, all right, I know I need to change my slide, and I've given them a prompt on what the slide number is above that. And then just to the right of that, again, here's some information I want them to be saying. I've kind of laid it out clear and concisely. And then on the far right-hand side, I gave them a smaller image of what that slide's going to be. I didn't give them a big image because what I don't want is I don't want the facilitator to try to read off the slide, right? Nothing's worse than someone reading you slides that you can read yourself. But so that's why I give them a smaller one, because it's really it's just a prompt, so they know they can check behind them and see what it is. So that's there's that idea, and then you can just continue to walk them through it, right? So now it's like, all right, I took information that was a key point. I set it aside as a key point so it stood out. And the idea here is if I was to now transition this from a facilitator guide to a participant guide, I can pull all the key points from my facilitator guide and put them in my participant guide. So when I'm also developing this material, things that I want the facilitator to talk about, but I don't need it to be in the participant book, I put it in as, let's say, a say block. And that way when I'm converting stuff over or making my participant book from my facilitator guide, I can just skip all the say blocks because I've already written it in a way that just works for the facilitator. But these key points that I know is going to be going to the facilitator, I've written in a way that's going to work for both the facilitator as well as the participant. So really what I meant there was that information is written in the way that works for the participant. Now when I bring it over to my participant guide, I don't have to rework it. So I'm saving a step there. And then I've used this third column with the note to provide further information for the facilitator about this. So that's the kind of idea I'm talking about, is that we're walking someone through the process of, through our thought process and what we're doing, right? If this was a Blu-ray, think of your portfolio and the commentary as, when we used to get Blu-ray or DVDs, right? When DVDs came out, it's scary to think how long ago those things came out. But it was like the first time you got the movie with the director's cut or the director's commentary on top of it. So you could just watch the movie as it was, or you could watch it with the commentary and they would walk you through their thought process or what was happening at that moment or a story. Do that with the things you're showing in your portfolio, right? That's the showing your work. Because to me, great, you built out a little, if I came back to this document and it was just obviously, let's say me not there, if I disappeared and, well, here, we're going to make myself disappear because I can. So if they were to just see this document with nothing there, all right, they're like, okay, I don't really like, I don't like the icon he chose, or why did he put it into 3 columns, or why did you put it into 3 columns? By giving them your thought process, they can understand why you were doing it versus he used Alhambra font, or she used, Roboto. Why would they ever do that? You take that away because what's important is your thought process behind it. I know I'm just beating on this, but that's the general idea. Now, how do we go about this, right? Because a lot of times you're loading these things up into, they're a post, there are some documents you've loaded up onto LinkedIn. You've set up a web page that you're detailing your information on. Well, that's great. Well, one way, if you're comfortable, some sort of screen reader, let's use our screen recorder, Snagit, right? The one I just talked about. You can record your screen. You can put, it gives you the ability to put your camera in the bottom left, the bottom right, upper left, up, in any of the 4 corners. I couldn't even figure out all 4 corners at this, but so you're able to do those type of things. What I would recommend though is, do that. Have some sort of recording. Have, if it's something you need to write out, here's, if it's on your webpage, you can put up the images of it and then put some running commentary on the right-hand side or, next to it saying, I made the choice to do this XYZ because of this and that. And now they're getting not only the look and feel, but more importantly, what's happening between the ears. So that's kind of my thought process in there. Actually, before I kind of sign off, I wanted to kind of keep this first one short, because I'm nervous. When you go, one of the things to think about on any of these materials when you go to share them is the quality of what's being shared. So like I said, let's say we use Snagit. If you use Snagit, you record and you're able to save that out there. Or another way you could go about this, if you have Zoom, launch a Zoom meeting, right? Don't have anyone else on there, but you can share your screen. So if it's your e-learning, if it's a document, you can share the screen, you can have your camera showing, and you can walk yourself through those. But keep in mind, on any of these recordings, a lot of them, especially Zoom, Teams, they're going to compress that video down quite a bit. So the quality of the video can get very degraded. So just keep that in mind. You may want to dig around to see what, if it's not looking the best, what else is out there for you. Look at screen recorders, look at OBS, Open Broadcast Studio software. It's actually what I'm using to help do all this. It's a free piece of programming. That's actually one that I probably should have thrown up into what software do I need. Probably that would be one that I would dig into. It's one I'm very much enjoying doing, especially if you think you're going to be going the virtual teaching route. It just allows us to do a lot of things in there. But one of them is it gives you can record your screen and what you're doing on it, and obviously pop different things around like I've been doing, right? If I want to start taking these things off, all of that's done in this program. But you got to make sure, whatever you're putting yourself out there, right? You want to put yourself in as best of a position as you can. So just, before you post it, take a look, see, did that recording come out the way you want it? But, with all that said, I hope you got something out of this today. Obviously I'm learning as I'm going, right? Done is better than perfect. We're at, going for that at the moment, hopefully that 70% solution, right? Which is still better than nothing. But each week we're going to get better. I'm going to get better, hopefully bring more to this. I do see, and Jeremy, thank you for posting. I do, about Tim Slade pointing out that the other day that portfolio doesn't have to be perfect. Absolutely true, right? In anything we do, I like the terminology, done is better than perfect, right? But done is better than perfect, especially when we can talk about why we went the route we went, or how we only got to a certain location. But with all that, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I am going to post up right here. There's my email. If you're on LinkedIn, please, let's connect. You can always reach at me through my company's email or through the website. I debated putting my phone number up there, maybe next time, but yeah, I'm up for helping out anybody that I can. Until then, I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys later.